Here we're seeing it from the left side. Here behind are the ovaries. Here are the uterine tubes and the uterus. Here's the vagina passing down through the pelvic diaphragm. This is the base of the bladder. The bladder was here. To see how these structures relate to their surroundings, we'll go to a more intact dissection. Here we're looking downwards and backwards into the pelvic cavity. Here are the inguinal ligaments in front. Here's the pelvic brim. Here's the sacral promontory. Here are the uterus and the two uterine tubes. Here's the left ovary. Here's the right one. Behind the uterus is the sigmoid colon. In front of it, beneath the peritoneum, is the bladder. These are the pelvic organs of an individual past childbearing age. The uterus and the ovaries are quite small. Of the female pelvic organs made during a laparoscopic procedure on an individual of childbearing age. Here our view is reversed. This is anterior, this is posterior. Here's the uterus. Here are the uterine tubes hanging backwards. Here are the round ligaments. Here we're looking down into the recto-uterine pouch. Here's the right broad ligament with the round ligament running within it. Here's the right ovary hanging on its mesovarium. When we pick up the ampulla of the uterine tube with forceps, we can see the fimbria, the ovary, and the suspensory ligament of the ovary. We're looking down on the highest part of the uterus, the fundus. This is the body of the uterus. The cervix of the uterus is well hidden, down here. The fundus and body of the uterus are covered with peritoneum. When we lift the uterus up, we can see that between it and the upper part of the rectum, there's a deep recess, the recto-uterine pouch, or pouch of Douglas. It's the lowest point in the peritoneal cavity. Here in front, where the peritoneum sweeps forwards from the uterus to cover the bladder, there's another recess, the vesico-uterine pouch, that's more evident when the bladder is full. Here's the cervix, projecting into the vagina. In this specimen, the cervix is somewhat flattened. Around the cervix, between it and the vaginal wall, there's a recess, the vaginal fornix. Here in the center of the cervix is the ostium, or external os, of the uterus. To see a side view of these structures in their natural location, we'll go to a dissection in which the left half of the pelvis has been removed. Here's the pubic symphysis. Here's the coccyx. Here's the pelvic diaphragm, held in position by a wire frame. Here's the vagina. Here's the uterus. The broad ligament was here. Here's the rectum behind the vagina and the bladder in front of it. Here's the peritoneum coming down off the rectum, forming the recto-uterine recess behind the uterus and the vesico-uterine recess in front of it. Down at the bottom, here's the vaginal opening, the anus, and the external anal sphincter muscle. The two uterine tubes, commonly called the fallopian tubes, arise on each side from the upper part of the uterus. To see the tube more clearly, we'll look at it underwater. The uterine tube widens along its length. It's divided arbitrarily into the isthmus, the ampulla, and the infundibulum. The uterine tube opens into the peritoneal cavity. The opening of the uterine tube is surrounded and concealed by these delicate mucosal fronds, the fimbriae. The opening, the abdominal ostium, is here. Normally, the infundibulum is curled around so that the fimbria touch the ovary. We'll pull the uterus forwards to see the ovary. Here's the ovary. In a young adult, it's much larger, as we'll see.